In Matthew 17, we read a story where Jesus and the disciples come to Capernaum, and the one who took the temple tax came to Peter and said, "Does your teacher not pay the temple tax?" And he said, "Yes." And when he had come into the house, Jesus anticipated him, saying, "What do you think, Simon? From whom do the kings of the earth take customs or taxes? From their sons or from strangers?" And Peter said to him, "From strangers." And Jesus said to him, "Then the sons are free. Nevertheless, lest we offend them, go to the sea, cast in a hook, and take the fish that comes up first. When you've opened its mouth, you'll find a piece of money. Take that and give it to them for me and you." Now, first of all, Jesus described very clearly that since they're in this kingdom, workers for the kingdom, it's God's temple and they are there of God, that they shouldn't have to pay this tax, that Jesus shouldn't have to. Now, there's interesting ways that this leans into the new covenant, because when the whole system is changed and we are sons, then it's the same for us, that it's no longer this system of the priests up here, prophets up here, and we're down here, but he's made the nation of priests and kings and stuff, right? But notice this, he said that even though they didn't owe it, and he shouldn't have to, that he would, because paying that tax would be better than offending them. He says, hey, just so we don't offend them, let's just pay it anyway. Now, I think there's a lot of people today and a lot of things who would be, I don't owe that. I don't deserve to pay that. I'm going to fight for my right. Well, what if you offend them? Isn't an offense, an insult, as bad as stealing or as bad as killing? Isn't that sort of like this idea of how just the heart of God and that connecting, free, loving heart is important to our spiritual life? So it's interesting. I mean, it's hard. There's hard things, right? Hard sayings. And we're like, ooh, ouch. Because how many times might you have to pay something you don't need to? That someone put you in a spot that you shouldn't? That somebody overtaxed you or overcharged you, and you could fight back. You could fight for it. Or you could consider that, hey, just so we don't offend them, we'll do this thing. There's this passage in the Old Covenant that describes Jesus coming, that a bruised wick he will not break. And it's this idea of this very weak type of growth that if it's messed up, it can be so easily broken. But that Jesus will have this care and compassion that he won't break that and push that thing. And that's something that we see in the gentleness and humility of Christ. But we don't always easily reproduce that. In Corinthians, Paul tells them, hey, look it, so this person wronged you, so they wronged you. Wouldn't you rather just be wronged instead of having to fight for your own stuff to get it? Look it, Paul had so much, he lost so much, but he realized that. He realized that the things that we think we need to fight for at the expense of the love shown through us isn't worth fighting for at all. Imagine someone who's collecting money for the church, going to Jesus and saying, hey, and not knowing, right? And this is sort of the idea where like entertaining angels unaware, or Jesus says, look at what you've done to the least you've done to me. It's like coming to God and saying, hey, we're collecting money for God's house. Will you give me something? God's like, well, yeah, that's my house, right? Jesus is like, dude, I'm going to give you guys a free cleaning at the temple coming up pretty soon. So I could just be cool, right? But they came to Jesus. He's the temple of God, the temple of the Spirit on earth, who would let us become temples of the Spirit. And they came trying to get temple money from him. And he's like, hey, why not? It's kind of like when a parent has to give money to their kid so the kid could buy him a Christmas gift or something. It's wild. But the interpersonal exchange between that parent and that kid is the point, that the kid can have that thing, even though the parent's paying for it. And the parent probably would have got something that they really wanted, even better than what the kid knew. But they do that. And in this same way, Jesus, right, who the Father was in, instead of offending them, and instead of just causing unnecessary trouble or standing up for himself, he's like, let's pay. And you know what? I won't use my own money maybe, but God will provide. Go fishing. Do what you're awesome at, Peter. The money we need what God's house needs, the way that we're going to make this cool without offending them, Peter, you go do the thing that you were best at. What's your talent? What did you used to do? Oh, you're a fisherman? Okay, cool. Check this out. Then you'll be perfect. Then we're going to send you to do what you know about. We're going to send you to do what you're awesome at. And you're going to go, you grab that fishy, rip its mouth open and take out that money and go give it to them so they don't get offended. How cool is that? Some of you folks have talents and gifts that God gave you. You might not have been able to use them for the kingdom. Maybe you used to, and then you thought you had to get rid of those when you got saved or something like that. But if you have these skills, you have these talents, you have these things, God can use those too. So if you're a fisherman and you stop to go follow Jesus around, Jesus might just do an awesome miracle and teaching by telling you to go fish or go do whatever you do. It's a good little story. I like it. Thanks so much for being here. I love you, and the Lord loves you. We'll see you next time.